Your father, he waits.
Much to learn. There is beyond our village.
Survive. Remember your mercy. She knows the human secrets.
Over and did not tell us everything about.
The movie Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, released in 2024, continues the legendary Planet of the Apes saga and takes the audience many generations into the future after the events of the previous trilogy, where the great ape leader Caesar once fought to create a peaceful world for apes and humans. The film presents a new era where apes have become the dominant species on Earth, while human civilization has almost disappeared and the world has transformed into a wild natural landscape where ancient cities are now ruins covered by forests and nature. The story introduces a young chimpanzee named Noa who belongs to a peaceful eagle clan that lives by hunting and training eagles and respecting the traditions passed down from earlier generations of apes. This clan believes in living with honor and maintaining harmony within their community, but the stability of their lives begins to collapse when a powerful and dangerous ape ruler named Proximus Caesar rises to power and starts building an empire that threatens every clan in the region. Proximus Caesar claims to follow the teachings of the legendary Caesar, but in reality he twists those teachings to justify his desire for domination and control over other apes. He forces many clans to serve his empire and searches for the knowledge left behind by the old human civilization, believing that human technology will give him even greater power. The peaceful world that Noa once knew begins to change when Proximus Caesar's soldiers attack his village, destroying his home and capturing members of his clan, which forces Noa to begin a dangerous journey across the wild lands to rescue his people and discover the truth about the world beyond his small community. During this journey, Noa encounters a mysterious human girl named May who appears to be more intelligent and aware than most surviving humans who now live in primitive conditions. May's presence reveals that the relationship between humans and apes is far more complicated than it seems, because some humans may still carry knowledge from the past that could change the future of the world. As Noa continues traveling through abandoned human cities, ancient structures and dangerous territories, he slowly begins to learn more about the history of Caesar and the ideals that once guided Ape Society. He realizes that the legacy of Caesar was meant to create balance between strength and compassion rather than domination and fear. This discovery becomes important because it forces Noa to question the authority of Proximus Caesar and the empire that is spreading across the land. The film explores themes of legacy, leadership, power, and the danger of misinterpreting history, showing how the teachings of a great leader can be twisted when those teachings fall into the hands of someone who seeks power instead of justice. Visually, the movie presents a stunning world where nature has reclaimed the remains of human civilization, with forests growing through skyscrapers, oceans swallowing old cities, and wildlife dominating landscapes that once belonged to humans. The advanced motion capture technology used in the film brings the ape characters to life with incredible realism, allowing the audience to see emotion, intelligence, and personality in every movement and expression. As the story develops, Noa begins transforming from a young ape who only understood the traditions of his clan into a leader who must decide whether he will follow the path of courage and honor that Caesar once represented, or allow the world to fall under the control of tyrants who misuse that legacy. This journey marks the beginning of a new chapter in the Planet of the Apes universe, where the future of both apes and humans will be shaped by the choices made by a new generation living in the shadow of a legendary past. The story continues as Noa begins the long and dangerous journey across the wild lands in search of the captured members of his clan, and along the way he slowly realizes that the world beyond his home is far larger and more complicated than he ever imagined. The peaceful life he once lived with his Eagle clan had protected him from the conflicts that exist between different groups of apes, but now he begins to see how the rise of Proximus Caesar's empire has started changing the balance of power across the entire region. Many ape clans have been forced to either serve Proximus Caesar or abandon their homes to avoid becoming prisoners of his growing army. The ruins of the old human world are scattered everywhere across the landscape, including abandoned cities, broken highways, and giant structures that are slowly being reclaimed by forests and wildlife, showing how the planet has changed after the fall of human civilization. During his journey, Noa continues traveling with May, the mysterious human girl who appears far more intelligent than most humans that apes have encountered, because most humans now behave like primitive creatures without language or complex thinking. May, however, clearly understands the world around her and seems to know secrets about the past that could change the future of both humans and apes. This creates tension because Noa has been raised to believe that humans are weak creatures who once destroyed the world through their greed and technology, but May's knowledge suggests that humans may still hold important pieces of history that could explain what really happened to civilization. While traveling together, they encounter different ape groups, some of whom fear Proximus Caesar while others support him, believing that his empire will make apes stronger than humans ever were. These encounters slowly reveal how divided Ape Society has become, as different clans interpret the legacy of Caesar in different ways. Some still respect the idea that apes should live with honor and protect their communities, while others believe that total domination over the world is the true destiny of ape civilization. As Noa moves closer to the territory controlled by Proximus Caesar, he begins seeing the scale of the empire that is being built, including massive settlements where captured apes are forced to work under strict control while soldiers patrol the area, enforcing the authority of their ruler. Proximus Caesar presents himself as the rightful successor of Caesar's vision, claiming that only a powerful unified empire can protect apes from the hidden dangers of the world, but the way he treats other clans shows that his true goal is control rather than unity. The journey becomes even more dangerous as Noa and May must cross difficult environments, including flooded ruins, steep mountains, and areas controlled by hostile ape forces who view outsiders as threats. During these challenges, Noa slowly begins developing the qualities of a leader as he learns how to survive in unfamiliar territory, make difficult decisions, and protect those traveling with him even when the risks become greater with every step forward. The relationship between Noa and May also begins evolving as they learn to trust each other despite the long history of conflict between humans and apes, and this partnership hints that the future of the world may depend on whether both species can learn to understand each other instead of repeating the mistakes that once destroyed human civilization. The deeper Noa travels into the lands controlled by Proximus Caesar, the more he realizes that confronting this powerful empire will require more than courage alone, because the future of Ape Society and possibly the survival of humans may depend on the choices he makes in the battles that are still waiting ahead. As Noa continues moving deeper into the territory controlled by Proximus Caesar, he begins to witness the true scale of the empire that is spreading across the lands once ruled by many independent ape clans. What started as a simple journey to rescue his captured clan members slowly becomes a much larger mission as he discovers that many other ape communities have also been forced to serve the growing power of Proximus Caesar. Massive settlements filled with captured apes appear across the ruins of the old human world, where soldiers loyal to Proximus patrol, constantly ensuring that no one challenges their authority. These camps are built near the remains of ancient human structures because Proximus Caesar believes that the knowledge and technology left behind by humans may help him strengthen his empire and expand his control even further. Noa begins realizing that this empire is not built on the ideals that the legendary Caesar once believed in, because the original Caesar fought to give apes freedom and dignity, while Proximus Caesar rules through fear and obedience, forcing other apes to follow his commands without question. The more Noa learns about this empire, the more he begins understanding that rescuing his clan alone will not solve the larger problem, because the power of Proximus Caesar threatens every ape society that values independence and honor. During this part of the journey, May continues traveling with Noa, and their relationship becomes more complicated as they begin discussing the past of the human world and the fall of civilization that allowed apes to become the dominant species. May reveals that some humans still carry knowledge of the past, including secrets about technology, communication, and the global systems that once connected human society across the planet. This information becomes extremely important because Proximus Caesar is also searching for the same knowledge, believing that human technology will allow him to control the world and prevent any rival from challenging his authority. While traveling through the ruins of an enormous city, Noa and May discover hidden signs that some humans may still be organized in small secret communities trying to survive in the shadows of ape civilization. These discoveries create tension because it raises the question of whether humans might one day rise again or whether apes will continue ruling the planet for generations. As the journey continues, Noa begins developing stronger leadership qualities as he faces dangerous situations, including attacks from hostile ape patrols, difficult natural environments, and moments where he must decide whether to continue risking everything to challenge Proximus Caesar's empire. He remembers the stories about the original Caesar and begins questioning what kind of leader he wants to become if he survives the battles ahead. This internal struggle becomes one of the most important themes of the story because Noa must decide whether he will follow the path of honor, compassion, and freedom that Caesar once represented, or whether the world will fall deeper into the rule of tyrants who misuse that legacy to justify their own ambition. As the journey brings Noa closer to the heart of Proximus Caesar's empire, he begins preparing for the moment when he will finally confront the ruler who destroyed his home and change the future of Ape Society forever. As Noa moves closer to the center of Proximus Caesar's empire, the dangers surrounding him begin increasing, and the peaceful world he once knew becomes a distant memory as he now travels through territories controlled by soldiers loyal to the powerful ruler. The landscape around him reveals the scale of how much the planet has changed since the fall of human civilization, with forests growing through broken skyscrapers, oceans flooding parts of old cities, and nature reclaiming everything that once belonged to humanity. These ruins remind both Noa and May that the world they are living in is built on the remains of a civilization that collapsed because humans lost control of their own power and technology. Along the journey, Noa continues searching for members of his captured clan while also learning more about the different ape communities that now exist across the planet. Some clans have chosen to serve Proximus Caesar because they believe his empire will protect them from danger, while others have been forced into loyalty through fear and violence. This growing empire has started changing the traditions of Ape Society because instead of living freely in their own clans, many apes are now forced to follow the commands of a single ruler who claims to represent the legacy of the great Caesar. However, Noa begins realizing that Proximus Caesar has misunderstood or intentionally twisted Caesar's teachings because the original leader fought for freedom and unity while Proximus rules through domination and obedience. The more Noa learns about the Empire, the more he understands that this conflict is not just about rescuing his own clan but about protecting the future of Ape Society from falling under the control of a tyrant who believes power is more important than honor. May continues guiding Noa through the ruins of human civilization and reveals more information about the history of the world, explaining that some humans still believe knowledge from the past could help rebuild civilization while others simply struggle to survive in a world now ruled by apes. Their journey eventually leads them toward the massive fortress where Proximus Caesar has built the center of his empire, a place surrounded by guards, watchtowers, and captured workers forced to build structures using materials from ancient human ruins. The fortress represents the growing ambition of Proximus Caesar because he believes that controlling the knowledge of the past will give him absolute power over the future. Noa realizes that confronting such a powerful enemy will require more than courage because the empire he faces has grown far beyond what he imagined when he first began his journey. Yet despite the overwhelming danger, Noa continues moving forward, driven by the memory of his destroyed home and the hope that he can free his clan and restore the values of honor and freedom that once defined Ape Society. As he prepares to enter the heart of the empire, the young ape understands that the choices he makes in the coming conflict may determine not only the fate of his clan but also the future direction of the entire ape civilization. As Noa and May move closer to the center of Proximus Caesar's empire, the true scale of the ruler's ambition becomes clearer with every step they take across the ruined world. The massive structures built from the remains of ancient human cities show how Proximus Caesar is determined to reshape Ape Society into a powerful empire where every clan must follow his authority. Large groups of captured apes are forced to work under strict supervision, gathering materials, exploring human ruins, and searching for lost knowledge that Proximus believes will help him unlock the secrets of the old world. These scenes reveal that the empire is not only built on strength but also on control because Proximus Caesar wants to gather information about human technology, believing that whoever understands the past will have the power to rule the future. Noa begins seeing the suffering of many ape clans who were once free but are now trapped inside the growing empire, and this strengthens his determination to challenge the ruler who destroyed his home. May also becomes more important during this part of the journey because she understands many of the symbols and objects left behind by human civilization, and she knows that some of the technology hidden in the ruins could change the balance of power between humans and apes forever. Her knowledge makes her valuable not only to Noa but also to Proximus Caesar, who is secretly searching for humans capable of unlocking the secrets of ancient machines and communication systems. As they continue exploring the ruins together, May slowly reveals that there may still be humans who remember how the old world functioned and that some groups are trying to rebuild connections that were lost after the collapse of civilization. This discovery creates tension between May and Noa because it raises questions about the future of both species and whether humans might eventually try to reclaim control of the planet. At the same time, Noa struggles with his own thoughts about the legacy of the original Caesar because the more he learns about Proximus Caesar's empire, the more he realizes how easily a powerful idea can be twisted when it falls into the hands of someone who values domination over wisdom. Noa begins seeing himself not only as a survivor trying to rescue his clan but also as a potential leader who might need to defend the true meaning of Caesar's legacy. The journey becomes even more dangerous as they approach the heavily guarded fortress where Proximus Caesar rules, and the closer they get, the more Noa realizes that confronting such a powerful enemy will require courage, strategy, and allies who are willing to fight for the freedom of their people. The path ahead is filled with uncertainty, but Noa understands that the fate of many ape clans may depend on whether he can challenge the empire that is slowly reshaping the future of the planet. As Noa continues moving through the lands controlled by Proximus Caesar, the journey becomes more dangerous and more revealing about how the empire truly operates. The once independent ape clans that lived peacefully in different territories have now been forced to either join the empire or become prisoners working under the command of soldiers loyal to Proximus Caesar. The sight of captured apes being forced to work inside ruined human structures strengthens Noa's determination, because he realizes that the empire is built on fear and control rather than the freedom and unity that the original Caesar once believed in. The fortress where Proximus Caesar rules becomes visible from a distance, standing among the remains of an ancient human city where broken towers and collapsed buildings have been turned into strongholds for the growing army. The empire is not only powerful but also organized, with patrols guarding the territory, watchtowers built from human ruins, and large groups of workers searching for objects and knowledge left behind by the old human world. Proximus Caesar believes that the future of ape civilization depends on understanding the technology humans once used, and he commands his followers to explore abandoned laboratories, communication towers, and underground structures, hoping to find something that will give him an advantage over every other clan. May becomes even more important at this stage of the journey because she recognizes many of the symbols and machines hidden inside the ruins, and she understands that some of the systems built by humans long ago may still function if someone knows how to activate them. This knowledge makes her valuable but also places her in great danger, because if Proximus Caesar discovers her abilities, he may force her to help unlock the secrets he is searching for. While moving through the ruins, Noa also meets other apes who secretly resist the empire and who still believe in the ideals of the original Caesar, where apes lived with honor and protected one another instead of conquering weaker clans. These encounters begin forming the possibility that Noa is not alone in his fight, and that there may be others willing to stand against Proximus Caesar's growing power. As the young ape continues learning about the empire, he begins understanding that defeating such a powerful ruler will require more than a simple rescue mission, because the conflict now represents the future direction of Ape Society itself. If Proximus Caesar succeeds in gaining control of human knowledge and technology, he could build an empire so strong that no other clan would ever be able to challenge his authority. But if Noa can expose the truth about how the empire has twisted Caesar's teachings, he may inspire others to remember the values that once united ape civilization. Standing on the edge of the empire's territory, Noa prepares himself for the most dangerous stage of his journey, knowing that the decisions he makes from this moment forward may determine whether the future of the planet belongs to tyrants who seek domination or to leaders who protect the balance between strength, wisdom, and freedom. As Noa and May move even closer to the stronghold of Proximus Caesar, the tension of the journey grows heavier, because the territory surrounding the empire becomes more heavily guarded and filled with signs of the ruler's expanding influence across the land. The remains of ancient human structures are now used as watchtowers, storage areas, and training grounds where soldiers loyal to Proximus prepare for possible rebellions from other ape clans that refuse to submit to the empire. These areas reveal that the ruler is not only searching for human technology but also building an organized army capable of controlling large parts of the world. Noa quietly observes the way the empire functions and begins realizing that Proximus Caesar has created a system where fear keeps every ape obedient while the promise of power convinces others to support him. Many apes who serve the empire believe they are helping build a stronger future for their species, while others secretly resent the loss of freedom that once defined their clans. As the journey continues, Noa encounters a group of captured apes from different tribes who are forced to work near the ruins of a massive human facility believed to contain hidden knowledge about the past world. Seeing apes from many clans suffering together strengthens Noa's understanding that the conflict is much larger than the fate of his own village, because the empire threatens the independence of every ape community that refuses to obey Proximus Caesar. During this stage, May begins revealing more about the secrets she carries, explaining that some humans still believe the knowledge of the old world must be protected from falling into the wrong hands because the same technology that once helped humanity dominate the planet also led to the disaster that destroyed their civilization. She warns Noa that if Proximus Caesar gains access to this knowledge, he could create an empire even more dangerous than anything the world has seen since the fall of humans. This information makes Noa realize that stopping the empire is not only about rescuing his clan but also about preventing a future where one ruler controls the entire planet using the remains of human power. The deeper they travel into the territory, the more difficult the mission becomes because soldiers patrol every path, and the fortress of Proximus Caesar stands like a symbol of the empire's strength, surrounded by workers, guards, and structures built from ancient ruins. Noa understands that reaching the fortress will require careful planning because confronting such a powerful ruler without preparation would only lead to failure. Yet despite the overwhelming danger, he continues moving forward, guided by the memory of his destroyed home and the belief that the true legacy of Caesar must be protected from those who twist it for their own ambition. As the young ape prepares for the next stage of the journey, he begins realizing that the fight ahead will not only determine the fate of his clan but may also shape the future balance between apes, humans, and the world they now share. As Noa continues traveling through the territory controlled by Proximus Caesar, the journey becomes more intense and filled with uncertainty because the closer he moves toward the center of the empire, the more he witnesses the power and influence that the ruler has built over many ape clans. Large groups of soldiers patrol the lands while captured apes from different tribes are forced to work on projects ordered by the empire, including exploring human ruins, transporting materials, and building defensive structures that strengthen the fortress where Proximus Caesar rules. The young ape begins realizing that the empire is far more organized and powerful than he imagined when he first began searching for his captured clan members. The sight of so many apes forced to serve a single ruler makes Noa question how the legacy of the great Caesar could be twisted in such a way, because the original leader fought to free apes from oppression while Proximus Caesar uses the name of Caesar to justify domination and control. May continues guiding Noa through abandoned human structures and explains that many of the ruins they are passing through were once centers of knowledge, communication, and technology where humans controlled machines capable of connecting entire civilizations across the planet. She warns that if Proximus Caesar gains access to the right technology, he could create an empire far more powerful than anything the world has seen since the fall of humanity. During their journey, they encounter a small group of apes who secretly resist the empire and still believe in the values of freedom, unity, and honor that once guided Ape Society during the time of the original Caesar. These rebels share information about the fortress and reveal that many captured apes are held inside its walls, forced to work while Proximus Caesar searches for ancient human knowledge that could increase his power. This meeting gives Noa hope because it shows that not all apes support the empire and that there are still those willing to fight for the true meaning of Caesar's legacy. As the group continues moving toward the fortress, they pass through the remains of a giant human city where nature has reclaimed the streets, with trees growing through buildings and wildlife living among the ruins, creating a strange mix of the old human world and the new age ruled by apes. These scenes remind Noa and May that the planet has changed dramatically since humans once controlled it, and that the choices made by the new generation of apes will determine what the future of the world will look like. As the fortress finally becomes visible on the horizon, Noa understands that the most dangerous part of the journey is about to begin, because reaching the heart of the empire will require courage, intelligence, and allies willing to challenge the authority of Proximus Caesar. The young ape prepares himself for the challenges ahead, knowing that the fate of his clan and possibly the future of Ape Society now depends on what happens inside the walls of the empire. As Noa and May finally move closer to the massive fortress controlled by Proximus Caesar, the scale of the empire becomes clearer than ever before, and the young ape begins understanding how deeply the ruler's power has spread across the land. The fortress stands in the middle of the ruins of an ancient human city where tall broken structures now serve as walls, towers and guard posts for the Empire's soldiers. Around the fortress hundreds of captured apes are forced to work every day gathering materials, moving stones and exploring nearby ruins in search of objects and knowledge left behind by the old human world. The soldiers loyal to Proximus Caesar patrol the area, constantly making sure that no prisoner escapes and that every worker continues following the strict commands of the Empire. Seeing so many apes from different clans forced to serve under one ruler fills Noa with anger because he understands that this empire is built on fear rather than the unity that the original Caesar once believed in. The stories he heard about Caesar spoke of a leader who protected apes and fought to give them freedom, but Proximus Caesar has twisted that legacy into something completely different, using the name of Caesar to justify domination over other clans. While observing the fortress from a distance, Noa begins planning how he might rescue the captured members of his own clan, but he quickly realizes that the fortress is heavily guarded and breaking into it will require more than courage alone. May continues sharing what she knows about the ruins surrounding the Empire, explaining that many of the old buildings once contained advanced systems created by humans, including communication networks and hidden facilities where technology was stored before the collapse of civilization. She fears that Proximus Caesar is searching for these places because if he gains access to human knowledge, he could build an empire powerful enough to control the entire planet. This possibility makes the situation even more dangerous because the conflict is no longer just about one clan or one fortress, but about the future balance between apes, humans, and the world they now share. As night falls over the ruins, Noa and May quietly move closer to the Empire's territory and observe how the soldiers operate, learning their patrol patterns and the locations where prisoners are held inside the fortress walls. The young ape begins realizing that he will need allies if he hopes to challenge such a powerful ruler, and the rebels they met earlier may be the key to organizing a resistance strong enough to stand against the Empire. As the lights of the fortress burn in the darkness, Noa prepares himself for the next stage of his mission, knowing that the path ahead will lead directly into the heart of Proximus Caesar's power, where the fate of many apes, including his own clan, will soon be decided. As night falls over the ruins surrounding the fortress of Proximus Caesar, the tension of the mission grows heavier for Noa and May because they now stand at the edge of the empire that has been spreading across the lands and enslaving many ape clans. The fortress is surrounded by tall broken structures from the old human world which have been turned into walls, watchtowers and guarded entry points, making it extremely difficult for anyone to enter or leave without being noticed by the soldiers patrolling the area. Fires burn throughout the camp where captured apes are forced to rest after long days of labor searching through ruins and transporting materials that Proximus Caesar believes may lead him to hidden human knowledge. Noa quietly watches the movements of the guards and the routines of the workers, trying to understand how the Empire operates so that he can find the right moment to enter the fortress and search for members of his clan who were taken during the attack on his village. While studying the camp, he begins realizing that many of the apes forced to work here come from different tribes and regions, meaning that Proximus Caesar has expanded his power far beyond what Noa originally imagined. The Empire appears strong, but beneath the surface there are signs of fear and resentment because not every ape believes in the rule of Proximus Caesar, and some secretly wish for the return of the values once taught by the original Caesar, who believed in freedom and unity rather than conquest. May explains that the fortress was built near a location that may contain ancient human technology capable of restoring communication systems that were once used across the planet, and she believes that Proximus Caesar is searching for these systems because controlling information could allow him to dominate both apes and the remaining humans who still survive in scattered groups. This revelation makes Noa realize that stopping the Empire may require more than rescuing his clan, because if Proximus Caesar unlocks the secrets of human technology, he could build a force powerful enough to reshape the future of the entire planet. As the night grows darker, Noa begins planning how to enter the fortress using the knowledge shared by the rebels he met earlier, who told him about hidden passages within the ruins that once served as underground access routes for human facilities. These tunnels may provide the only chance to enter the fortress without being seen by the guards, but using them will require courage and careful timing, because once inside the Empire's territory there will be no easy escape. While preparing for the dangerous mission, Noa reflects on the lessons of the great Caesar and understands that the future of Ape Society may depend on whether the next generation follows the path of honor and unity or allows tyrants like Proximus Caesar to twist that legacy for their own ambition. With the fortress standing before him like a symbol of the Empire's power, Noa prepares to take the next step into the heart of enemy territory, knowing that the battle ahead will determine the fate of his clan and possibly the future direction of ape civilization itself. As the night grows deeper around the massive fortress of Proximus Caesar, Noa and May carefully prepare to enter the heart of the Empire, knowing that one mistake could cost them their lives. The fires inside the camp illuminate hundreds of apes forced to work under the control of the Empire, and the sight strengthens Noa's determination because he understands that this fortress represents the center of a system built on fear and domination. The guards patrol constantly across the broken ruins of the old human city, while watchtowers built from collapsed buildings allow the soldiers to observe every movement around the camp. Using the information shared by the rebels they met earlier, Noa and May quietly move toward a hidden passage located beneath the ruins of an ancient structure which once served as an underground access route used by humans before the collapse of their civilization. The entrance to the tunnel is narrow and dark, but it offers the only path into the fortress that avoids the heavily guarded gates above. As they move through the tunnel, the walls around them reveal fragments of the past, including faded signs, broken machines, and metal doors that once connected the underground network of the old world. May recognizes some of the symbols and explains that these tunnels were once part of a larger system designed to store important equipment and communication devices that humans used before their society fell apart. This discovery confirms her fear that Proximus Caesar chose this location because somewhere beneath the ruins there may still be technology capable of restoring lost human knowledge. If the ruler finds what he is searching for, he could gain control over systems that no other ape understands, which would give him even greater power over the future of the planet. As they continue moving through the dark tunnels, Noa begins hearing distant sounds of activity above them, including the movement of guards and the echo of workers being ordered to continue their labor through the night. The deeper they move into the underground passage, the more Noa realizes that this mission is not only about rescuing his clan but about stopping a ruler who believes that the strength of an empire comes from controlling others rather than protecting them. The tunnel eventually leads toward a hidden entrance inside the fortress walls, and before stepping into the Empire's territory, Noa pauses for a moment, reflecting on the stories of the great Caesar whose teachings once guided Ape Society toward unity and freedom. He understands now that the battle ahead will test whether the next generation will honor those teachings or allow them to be twisted by rulers who seek only power. With the memory of his destroyed home and the hope of freeing his clan guiding his determination, Noa prepares to step into the fortress, knowing that the choices he makes inside the Empire may determine the future of both apes and humans in the world they now share. As Noa and May finally emerge from the underground tunnel into the inner area of the fortress, the true scale of Proximus Caesar's empire becomes even more terrifying than they imagined, because the entire place functions like a powerful center of control where soldiers, guards, and workers move constantly under strict orders. The fortress has been built using the broken remains of ancient human buildings and massive metal structures, creating walls and platforms that overlook the surrounding ruins, while fires and torches illuminate the dark spaces where captured apes are forced to work day and night. From their hidden position, Noa quietly observes the prisoners and begins searching the crowd, hoping to find members of his own clan who were taken during the attack on his village. Many of the apes working inside the fortress come from different tribes, which shows how far Proximus Caesar's power has spread across the region, because entire communities have been captured and forced to serve the empire. The soldiers loyal to the ruler appear disciplined and organized, constantly moving through the camp watching for signs of rebellion and making sure that no worker attempts to escape. This level of control makes Noa realize that freeing the prisoners will not be easy because the Empire has created a system where fear keeps everyone obedient and even the strongest apes are forced to follow orders to survive. May begins studying the structures around them and notices that several buildings within the fortress appear to have once been part of a human research facility, which confirms her suspicion that Proximus Caesar is searching for ancient technology hidden beneath the ruins. She quietly explains that if the ruler manages to activate the systems buried under the fortress, he could gain access to information and machines that were designed to control communication across the old human world. Such power would allow him to dominate every ape clan and possibly even locate surviving human groups scattered across the planet. As Noa listens to this warning, he understands that the situation is even more dangerous than he first believed, because the Empire is not only built on physical strength but also on the ambition to control the knowledge of the past. While hiding in the shadows of the fortress, Noa finally spots several members of his clan among the prisoners, and the sight fills him with both relief and determination because they are alive but clearly exhausted from the forced labor imposed by the Empire. He realizes that rescuing them will require careful planning because the guards are watching every movement inside the camp, and any attempt to escape could lead to immediate capture or worse. The young ape begins studying the routines of the soldiers and the layout of the fortress, preparing for the moment when he will finally act, knowing that what happens inside these walls could change the fate of many ape clans and determine whether the empire of Proximus Caesar continues growing or begins to fall apart. As Noa hides within the shadows of the fortress and continues observing the prisoners working under the control of Proximus Caesar, he begins understanding how carefully the Empire has organized its system of control over the captured apes. Groups of workers are divided into different tasks, including exploring human ruins, carrying heavy materials, repairing broken structures, and searching underground areas where the ruler believes important knowledge from the past may still exist. Soldiers constantly move between these groups, ensuring that no one attempts to escape, while also reminding every prisoner that the Empire has absolute authority over their lives. The atmosphere inside the fortress is filled with tension because even though many apes obey the orders of the guards out of fear, there are also quiet signs that not everyone supports the rule of Proximus Caesar. Noa notices that some prisoners secretly communicate with each other, exchanging quick glances and small gestures that suggest a hidden resistance may already exist among those forced to serve the Empire. Seeing this gives Noa hope because it means he may not be alone in trying to challenge the power of the ruler who destroyed his home. May continues exploring the surrounding structures and discovers old symbols and pieces of machinery that confirm the fortress was built around a location once used by humans for important research and communication systems. She quietly explains to Noa that if Proximus Caesar manages to activate the hidden technology beneath the ruins, he could gain access to knowledge that might allow him to control information across the entire world, which would make his empire even more powerful and impossible for other clans to challenge. This realization makes the situation more urgent because stopping the ruler is no longer just about rescuing prisoners but about preventing the misuse of human technology that once helped destroy civilization. As night continues inside the fortress, Noa slowly moves closer to the area where members of his clan are being held and finally manages to communicate with one of them through a brief whispered exchange. The moment is emotional because it confirms that his family and friends are alive, but also reveals that many prisoners have already been forced to work in dangerous areas where soldiers search for hidden human machines buried deep beneath the ruins. The captured apes explain that Proximus Caesar often speaks about becoming the greatest leader in ape history, claiming that he alone understands the true meaning of Caesar's teachings while everyone else is too weak to shape the future of their species. Hearing this strengthens Noa's belief that the ruler has completely twisted the legacy of the great Caesar, turning a vision of unity and freedom into a justification for conquest and domination. As the young ape quietly returns to the shadows of the fortress, he begins planning the next stage of his mission, knowing that freeing the prisoners and stopping the Empire will require careful timing, courage, and allies willing to risk everything for the future of Ape Society. As the night continues inside the fortress of Proximus Caesar, Noa begins carefully studying every movement within the camp because he knows that rescuing the prisoners will require perfect timing and a deep understanding of how the Empire operates. The captured apes are forced to work in different sections of the fortress, including areas where soldiers search through the ruins of ancient human buildings looking for hidden machines or devices that might still function after many years of abandonment. The guards move constantly through the camp, ensuring that no one stops working, and the sound of commands echoes through the fortress, reminding everyone that Proximus Caesar's authority is absolute. Despite the strict control, Noa begins noticing small signs that the prisoners are not completely broken, because some of them exchange quick glances and quiet gestures that reveal a hidden network of communication between apes from different clans who still believe in the ideals of freedom and unity once taught by the original Caesar. This discovery gives Noa hope because it means that if the right moment arrives, many prisoners may be willing to rise against the Empire rather than continue living under its control. May continues investigating the old human structures inside the fortress and eventually finds a hidden chamber filled with damaged machines and cables that once connected to a powerful communication system used before the fall of human civilization. She explains to Noa that these systems were designed to send signals across great distances, allowing humans to share information across entire continents, and if Proximus Caesar succeeds in restoring even a small part of this network, he could gain access to knowledge and control far beyond what any ape has ever possessed. The idea that the ruler might use human technology to strengthen his empire makes the situation even more dangerous, because it would give him the ability to dominate every ape clan and possibly even track surviving human groups hiding in remote areas of the planet. While hiding among the shadows of the fortress, Noa listens as soldiers speak about Proximus Caesar's plans, revealing that the ruler believes the future belongs to those strong enough to control both the physical world and the knowledge left behind by humans. These conversations confirm that Proximus Caesar does not see himself simply as a leader of apes, but as the founder of a new civilization where his empire will replace the fallen human world. Hearing this makes Noa realize that stopping the ruler will require more than freeing prisoners, because the future of the planet may depend on whether someone can prevent this empire from gaining control over the technology hidden beneath the ruins. As dawn slowly approaches, the fortress remains filled with activity, and Noa prepares himself for the moment when he will begin turning the quiet resistance among the prisoners into a coordinated effort to challenge the power of Proximus Caesar and restore the true meaning of the legacy left behind by the great Caesar. As dawn begins to rise over the fortress of Proximus Caesar, the entire camp slowly comes back to life, with guards shouting orders and prisoners being forced to begin another long day of labor searching through the ruins of the old human world. The sunlight reveals the true scale of the empire as hundreds of apes move across the fortress carrying heavy materials, exploring broken structures and digging through underground chambers where soldiers believe important technology may still be hidden. Noa watches everything carefully from the shadows because he now understands that freeing the prisoners and escaping the fortress will require careful planning and perfect timing, since the empire is heavily guarded and any mistake could lead to immediate capture. The young ape begins quietly communicating with members of his clan and other prisoners using small gestures and brief moments when the guards are distracted, and through these secret exchanges he learns that many apes inside the fortress are ready to rebel if they are given a real chance to fight back against the empire that has enslaved them. This discovery gives Noa the opportunity he has been searching for, because he realizes that the prisoners themselves could become the strongest force against Proximus Caesar if they act together at the right moment. While this planning continues, May secretly explores more of the human ruins hidden beneath the fortress and discovers a large underground chamber containing parts of an ancient communication system that once allowed humans to send signals across vast distances. She understands that this system is exactly what Proximus Caesar has been searching for, because controlling such technology could allow him to communicate with other regions and possibly uncover even more powerful machines left behind by the human world. May realizes that if the ruler gains control of these systems, he could expand his empire far beyond the fortress, turning his army into a force capable of dominating every ape clan across the planet. She quickly returns to warn Noa that time is running out because soldiers are already working to restore parts of the ancient machinery, and once the system begins functioning, Proximus Caesar may gain access to knowledge that no other ape understands. This warning convinces Noa that the moment to act must come soon, because waiting too long will only allow the empire to grow stronger and more difficult to defeat. As the prisoners continue working under the watchful eyes of the guards, Noa begins spreading the plan quietly among them, preparing for the moment when they will rise together and challenge the authority of the ruler who has twisted the legacy of the great Caesar into a system of fear and domination. Standing among the ruins of a fallen human civilization, Noa understands that the next battle will determine whether Ape Society moves toward freedom and unity or falls completely under the control of an empire built on power and ambition. As the day continues inside the fortress, the tension among the prisoners slowly begins to grow, because the secret plan that Noa has been spreading is now reaching more apes from different clans who have suffered under the rule of Proximus Caesar. The workers continue their forced labor, moving stones, exploring ruins, and searching for ancient machines, while the soldiers patrol the area, believing that fear alone will keep the prisoners obedient. However, beneath this appearance of control, a quiet resistance is beginning to form as more apes realize that the empire may not be as unbreakable as it seems. Noa moves carefully between groups of prisoners, pretending to work while quietly sharing instructions about when and how they should act once the right moment arrives. The plan is simple but dangerous, because it depends on the prisoners rising together and overwhelming the guards before the soldiers can organize a defense inside the fortress. At the same time, May continues exploring the underground sections of the ruins and discovers that the ancient communication system hidden beneath the fortress is closer to being activated than she expected, because soldiers loyal to Proximus Caesar have already restored parts of the machinery and are searching for the final components needed to bring the system back online. If the ruler succeeds in activating the system, he could gain access to information stored from the old human world, including maps, data, and possibly even other technological systems that could strengthen his empire beyond anything the ape clans have ever seen. Realizing how dangerous this situation has become, May returns quickly to warn Noa that their window of opportunity is becoming smaller with every passing hour. This news convinces Noa that the rebellion cannot wait any longer, because once the communication system begins working, Proximus Caesar may gain the advantage needed to control the future of the planet. As evening approaches, the prisoners continue working under the fading sunlight, but the atmosphere inside the fortress begins to change, because many apes now understand that something important is about to happen. The guards remain confident in their authority, unaware that the prisoners they control are secretly preparing to challenge the empire from within. Noa gathers the final groups of rebels and reminds them of the ideals once taught by the original Caesar, explaining that apes were never meant to live as slaves under the rule of fear, but as free communities united by honor and respect. These words inspire many prisoners who have been waiting for a chance to fight back, and together they prepare for the moment when the rebellion will begin inside the fortress. Standing among the ruins of the old human world, Noa understands that the coming battle will not only decide the fate of the prisoners but may also determine whether the empire of Proximus Caesar continues spreading across the planet or begins to collapse under the weight of its own ambition. As darkness slowly returns over the fortress of Proximus Caesar, the moment that Noa and the prisoners have been waiting for finally begins approaching, because the guards grow less alert during the late hours of the evening, believing that the exhausted workers will simply rest after a long day of forced labor. Fires burn around the fortress, lighting the broken ruins of the ancient human city, while soldiers patrol the outer walls, unaware that a rebellion is about to rise from within their own camp. Noa quietly moves between different groups of prisoners, giving the final signal that the time to act has arrived, and the tension spreads quickly among the captured apes who have suffered under the Empire's rule for so long. Many of them remember the stories of the original Caesar and the ideals of freedom and unity that once defined Ape Society, and those memories now give them the courage to stand against the guards who have controlled their lives inside the fortress. At the same time, May continues working beneath the ruins where the ancient communication system is located, because she understands that if the machinery becomes active during the rebellion, Proximus Caesar might use it to call reinforcements or gain knowledge that could turn the battle in his favor. The underground chamber is filled with damaged machines, cables and control panels that once connected human communication networks across the planet, and May works carefully to prevent the soldiers from completing the final steps needed to activate the system. Above ground, the rebellion finally begins when several prisoners overwhelm a group of guards, taking their weapons and spreading the signal to others that the fight for freedom has started. Chaos quickly spreads across the fortress as workers throw down their tools and begin resisting the soldiers who try to restore order, while alarms echo through the ruins of the old city. The soldiers loyal to Proximus Caesar rush to contain the uprising, but they are shocked to see how many prisoners have joined the rebellion, turning the entire fortress into a battlefield where apes from different clans fight side by side against the empire that enslaved them. In the middle of this chaos, Noa searches desperately for the members of his own clan, determined to lead them to safety while also ensuring that the rebellion does not collapse under the strength of the Empire's soldiers. The fortress that once appeared unstoppable now becomes a place of confusion and conflict, where the authority of Proximus Caesar is finally being challenged by those who refuse to live under his rule any longer. As the battle spreads through Theus, the rebellion spreads across the fortress. The quiet camp that once seemed completely controlled by Proximus Caesar suddenly transforms into a chaotic battlefield where prisoners and soldiers clash among the ruins of the ancient human city. Fires begin spreading as workers throw tools and debris toward the guards who try desperately to regain control, while alarms echo through the fortress, calling every loyal soldier to defend the Empire from the uprising. The rebellion grows stronger with every moment, because apes from different clans who were once forced to work side by side now unite against the same enemy that enslaved them. Noa moves quickly through the chaos, searching for the members of his own clan while also guiding groups of prisoners toward safer areas inside the fortress where they can organize their resistance instead of being scattered by the soldiers. The guards attempt to form defensive lines near the main structures of the fortress, but they are overwhelmed by the sudden number of rebels who have decided that they would rather fight for freedom than continue living under the control of the Empire. In the middle of the conflict, the name of Caesar begins spreading among the rebels as a symbol of the ideals that once united Ape Society, and many prisoners shout those words as they resist the soldiers, reminding each other that apes were never meant to serve a tyrant who twisted the legacy of their greatest leader. While the battle grows above ground, May continues working beneath the ruins in the underground chamber containing the ancient communication system, because she understands that if Proximus Caesar manages to activate the technology during the rebellion, he could still turn the situation in his favor. The chamber is filled with machines that once connected human civilizations across vast distances, and even though many parts of the system are damaged, some components still show signs of life, which confirms that the Empire was dangerously close to restoring the technology before the rebellion began. May carefully disrupts several connections, hoping to delay any attempt by the soldiers to bring the system online, while above ground the fighting continues, spreading across the fortress as rebels and guards struggle for control of the camp. Noa finally manages to locate several members of his clan among the prisoners, and the emotional reunion strengthens his determination, because he now realizes that the rebellion is not only about escaping the fortress but also about ending the rule of Proximus Caesar before his empire can grow even stronger. As the fires burn through the ruins and the sounds of battle echo across the fortress, the young ape understands that the conflict has reached a point where the future of many ape clans may soon be decided by the outcome of the rebellion now raging inside the heart of the empire. As the rebellion grows stronger inside the fortress, the chaos spreads through every part of the Empire's stronghold, and the soldiers loyal to Proximus Caesar begin struggling to control the situation because the number of rebels continues increasing with every passing moment. Prisoners from different ape clans who once worked under fear now fight side by side using tools, stones, and anything they can find to challenge the guards who once controlled them. The fires burning across the ruined city illuminate the battle, turning the fortress into a place of confusion where orders are shouted from every direction while soldiers attempt to regroup and protect the central structures of the Empire. Noa moves through the chaos, guiding groups of rebels toward the exits and safe areas while also helping them push back the soldiers who try to block their escape. The young ape understands that the rebellion must spread quickly before Proximus Caesar can organize his army and restore control over the fortress. Among the rebels, the name of Caesar continues echoing as a reminder of the ideals that once united Ape Society under a leader who believed in freedom and unity rather than domination and fear. Those words inspire many prisoners who had lost hope during their captivity and now fight with renewed strength because they believe they are defending the true legacy of their species. Meanwhile, beneath the fortress, May continues her work inside the underground chamber where the ancient communication system remains partially damaged but still dangerous if someone manages to activate it. The machines surrounding her are covered with dust and rust from many years of abandonment, yet some screens and cables still show faint signs of power, proving that the system once connected large parts of the human world before civilization collapsed. May knows that if Proximus Caesar gains access to this technology, he could use it to expand his empire far beyond the fortress and possibly locate other surviving human communities scattered across the planet. Determined to prevent this outcome, she continues disabling key parts of the machinery even as the sounds of battle echo from above the ruins. Back in the fortress, Noa and the rebels finally begin pushing the soldiers away from the main prison areas, allowing more captured apes to join the uprising and turning the rebellion into a force that the Empire can no longer ignore. The stronghold that once symbolized the power of Proximus Caesar is now filled with resistance from within its own walls, and as the battle intensifies, Noa realizes that the moment is approaching when the ruler himself may be forced to appear and face the rebellion that threatens to destroy the empire he worked so hard to build. As the rebellion inside the fortress grows more intense, the soldiers loyal to Proximus Caesar begin realizing that the uprising is far more serious than a small disturbance, because prisoners from nearly every part of the camp have joined together in the fight for freedom. The once tightly controlled stronghold now echoes with the sounds of battle as rebels push back against the guards who attempt to regain order. Fires continue burning through the ruins of the ancient human city, casting long shadows across the broken buildings while groups of apes struggle for control of the fortress. Noa moves quickly through the chaos, helping prisoners organize themselves into stronger groups so they can defend each other rather than fight alone against the soldiers of the Empire. His leadership begins inspiring many of the rebels because they see in him the same courage and determination that once defined the great Caesar, whose legacy has been misused by Proximus Caesar for his own ambition. The rebels shout words of unity and freedom as they push the soldiers away from the prison areas, allowing more captured apes to escape their chains and join the uprising, which slowly turns the rebellion into a powerful force inside the fortress walls. Meanwhile, the soldiers attempt to regroup near the central structures where the Empire's command posts are located, because they know that if the rebellion reaches those areas, the entire system controlling the fortress could collapse. The tension continues rising as both sides fight to gain control of the stronghold, and rumors begin spreading among the soldiers that Proximus Caesar himself is preparing to appear and take command of the situation personally. The idea of the ruler entering the battlefield creates both fear and anticipation among the rebels, because many have only heard stories about the powerful leader who built the empire and twisted the teachings of the original Caesar into a vision of conquest and domination. Beneath the fortress, May continues her dangerous task of preventing the ancient communication system from being activated, and although she has managed to disable several important parts of the machinery, she knows that if soldiers reach the chamber they may still attempt to repair the system before the rebellion ends. The underground tunnels around the chamber shake slightly as the battle above grows louder, reminding her that time is running out for both the rebels and the Empire. Above ground, the rebellion spreads further through the fortress as more prisoners break free and join the fight, turning the once powerful stronghold of Proximus Caesar into a battlefield where the future of Ape Society may soon be decided. Standing among the rebels, Noa realizes that the next stage of the conflict will be even more dangerous, because confronting the ruler who created this empire may be the only way to end the oppression that has spread across the land and restore the true meaning of Caesar's legacy. As the rebellion continues spreading across the fortress, the once powerful stronghold of Proximus Caesar begins losing the sense of order that had allowed the empire to control so many prisoners for such a long time. Groups of rebels now move through different parts of the fortress, freeing captured apes and pushing back the soldiers who attempt to defend the Empire's authority. The sounds of fighting echo through the broken structures of the ancient human city while fires continue burning in several areas where the battle has already passed. Noa remains at the center of the rebellion, guiding groups of prisoners and helping them organize their resistance so that they do not become scattered and defeated by the Empire's trained soldiers. Many rebels now see Noa as a leader because he is the one who helped bring them together and reminded them of the true ideals of unity and freedom that the original Caesar once represented. Those words continue spreading through the fortress, inspiring more prisoners to rise against the guards who once controlled their lives. However, the soldiers loyal to Proximus Caesar are not willing to surrender the fortress easily, and they begin regrouping near the central towers where the Empire's command posts are located. These areas are heavily guarded because they contain important resources and communication points that allow the ruler to maintain control over the Empire. The soldiers form defensive lines, preparing for a larger confrontation while waiting for orders from their leader who has not yet appeared on the battlefield. Rumors begin spreading among both the rebels and the soldiers that Proximus Caesar is preparing to address the uprising himself because he believes that only his presence can restore order and remind the prisoners of the power that built the empire. Beneath the fortress, May continues working in the underground chamber where the ancient communication system is located, and she realizes that although she has damaged many of the machines, the system is still dangerous because even partial activation could reveal important information about the old human world. The thought of Proximus Caesar gaining access to such knowledge convinces her that the rebellion must succeed before the Empire has time to repair the damaged technology. Back in the fortress, Noa finally reunites with more members of his clan who had been separated during the attack on their village, and the emotional moment strengthens his resolve because he knows that their survival depends on ending the rule of the empire that destroyed their home. As the rebels prepare for the next stage of the battle, the tension inside the fortress grows even stronger because everyone knows that the ruler who created this empire may soon step forward to confront the rebellion that threatens to tear apart the power he spent years building. As the rebellion continues spreading through the fortress, the atmosphere becomes even more intense because both the rebels and the soldiers understand that the conflict has reached a critical moment where the future of the empire may soon be decided. Groups of freed prisoners move quickly through the ruined structures, helping others escape while also gathering tools and weapons left behind during the chaos of the uprising. The once organized camp now looks like a battlefield where fires burn across broken buildings and the echoes of fighting continue throughout the fortress. Noa remains at the center of the resistance, guiding the rebels and encouraging them to stay united rather than becoming separated and defeated by the Empire's soldiers who are slowly regrouping near the central towers. These towers stand higher than the surrounding ruins and serve as the command center where Proximus Caesar controls the operations of the fortress and coordinates the activities of his army. The soldiers defending this area appear more disciplined than the guards who were overwhelmed earlier in the rebellion because they know that protecting the command center is the only way to prevent the entire empire from collapsing. As the rebels move closer to these central structures, the tension rises even further because everyone knows that the ruler himself may soon appear to confront the uprising directly. Whispers about Proximus Caesar spread through the fortress, describing him as a powerful leader who believes that strength and control are the only ways to secure the future of ape civilization. However, many rebels now reject that belief because they have seen how the empire enslaved clans and twisted the legacy of the great Caesar into a system of domination. Beneath the fortress, May continues working inside the underground chamber where the ancient communication system remains partially damaged but still capable of becoming dangerous if the soldiers manage to repair the machines. She carefully removes more components and disconnects cables, hoping to prevent anyone from restoring the system while the rebellion continues above. Each moment she spends in the chamber reminds her how close Proximus Caesar came to unlocking technology that could have allowed him to expand his empire across vast distances. Above ground, the rebels finally begin moving toward the central towers where the final confrontation may take place, because defeating the soldiers alone will not end the empire unless the ruler who created it is also stopped. Noa understands that facing Proximus Caesar may be the most dangerous challenge of the entire rebellion, but he also realizes that if the rebels succeed in reaching the heart of the fortress, they may finally bring an end to the power that has enslaved so many ape clans and restore the true meaning of the legacy left behind by Caesar. As the rebellion pushes deeper into the heart of the fortress, the battle becomes more intense because the rebels are now approaching the central towers where Proximus Caesar's command center stands above the ruins of the old human city. These towers serve as the core of the empire's control, where orders are given, soldiers are organized, and the ruler oversees the activities of the fortress that once appeared unstoppable. The soldiers defending this area fight with greater determination because they understand that if the rebels reach the command center, the authority of Proximus Caesar could collapse and the empire that has been spreading across the land may begin to fall apart. Noa leads groups of rebels through narrow pathways between broken buildings, guiding them carefully so that they do not become surrounded by the soldiers who are attempting to defend the towers. The fighting continues across the fortress as rebels push forward using the strength of their unity while the soldiers rely on discipline and training to slow their advance. The name of Caesar continues spreading among the rebels as a symbol of the ideals that once united Ape Society, and many fighters repeat those words as they move toward the center of the fortress, reminding each other that their battle is not only about survival but also about protecting the true legacy of their greatest leader. Meanwhile, beneath the ruins, May continues working inside the underground chamber where the ancient communication system remains partially functional despite the damage she has already caused. The machines around her flicker with faint signs of power, reminding her how dangerous this technology could become if Proximus Caesar ever manages to control it. She understands that the rebellion above must succeed because if the empire regains control of the fortress, the soldiers may eventually repair the machines and unlock the knowledge hidden within the system. Back above ground, the rebels finally reach the outer defenses of the central towers where the strongest soldiers of the empire have gathered to block their path. These soldiers wear symbols representing the authority of Proximus Caesar, and they fight fiercely, believing that the ruler's vision of a powerful ape empire must be protected at any cost. The clash between rebels and soldiers becomes even more violent as both sides struggle for control of the towers while the fires from earlier battles continue burning across the ruins of the fortress. Noa stands at the front of the resistance, realizing that the next moments will determine whether the rebellion succeeds or whether the empire manages to survive the uprising. As the rebels prepare for the final push toward the command center, everyone inside the fortress senses that the confrontation with Proximus Caesar himself may be about to begin, and the future of Ape Society now hangs in the balance between freedom and domination. As the rebels gather near the outer defenses of the central towers, the atmosphere inside the fortress becomes heavier than ever because everyone understands that the conflict has reached the most critical stage of the rebellion. The towers rise above the ruins like symbols of the Empire's authority, and the soldiers loyal to Proximus Caesar stand ready to defend them with everything they have, because losing this command center would mean losing control over the fortress and possibly the entire empire. Noa leads the rebels forward through narrow pathways between broken structures while carefully avoiding positions where the soldiers have gathered to block their advance. The fighting continues around them, with sparks of fire lighting the dark sky and the echoes of battle spreading through the ancient city that now serves as the Empire's stronghold. Many rebels remember the years they spent as prisoners inside these ruins, and the memory of that suffering gives them the strength to keep moving forward even when the soldiers attempt to push them back from the tower entrances. The name of Caesar continues spreading among the fighters, reminding them that the rebellion is about restoring the true values of Ape Society, where clans once lived with freedom and respect rather than under the rule of a tyrant who twisted that legacy for power. While the battle grows more intense above ground, May remains inside the underground chamber where the damaged communication system continues flickering with faint signs of life, and she works quickly to disable the remaining components that could allow the machines to function again. She understands that even if the rebels succeed in defeating the soldiers, the danger will not truly end unless the technology hidden beneath the fortress is prevented from falling into the wrong hands. Back near the central towers, the soldiers defending the command center begin receiving new orders as rumors spread that Proximus Caesar is finally preparing to appear and personally confront the rebellion that has threatened his empire. The idea that the ruler himself may soon enter the battlefield creates tension among both the soldiers and the rebels, because many have heard stories about his strength and ambition, but very few have ever faced him directly. Noa realizes that the moment he has been preparing for since the destruction of his village may soon arrive, because the confrontation with Proximus Caesar will determine whether the rebellion succeeds in breaking the empire's control or whether the ruler manages to regain power and punish those who dared to challenge him. Standing among the rebels at the edge of the tower defenses, Noa prepares himself for the final stage of the battle, knowing that the future of many ape clans and perhaps the direction of the entire world may soon be decided within the walls of the fortress. As the rebels continue pushing toward the central towers, the battle inside the fortress reaches its most dangerous stage, because the soldiers defending the command center fight with greater intensity, knowing that the fall of this area would mean the collapse of Proximus Caesar's authority over the entire stronghold. The towers rise above the broken ruins of the old human city, casting long shadows over the battlefield where rebels and soldiers struggle for control of every path and staircase leading toward the heart of the empire. Noa moves among the rebels, encouraging them to stay united as they face the strongest defenses the empire has prepared, because he understands that this final push will decide whether the rebellion succeeds or fails. Many of the fighters beside him were once prisoners forced to work under the rule of Proximus Caesar, and the memory of their captivity now fuels their determination to break the power that enslaved them. The clash between the two sides grows louder as soldiers attempt to hold their positions while rebels continue advancing step by step toward the tower entrances where the command center of the fortress is located. The fires from earlier battles continue burning across parts of the ruins, illuminating the chaos of the fight and turning the once controlled camp into a scene of open rebellion where the Empire's authority is slowly beginning to weaken. At the same time, whispers spread among both the rebels and the soldiers that Proximus Caesar himself is finally preparing to appear, because the ruler believes that only his presence can restore order and remind the prisoners of the strength that built the empire. The soldiers loyal to him repeat his name as a sign of loyalty, while the rebels prepare themselves to face the leader who twisted the teachings of the great Caesar into a vision of conquest and domination. Beneath the fortress, May continues working inside the underground chamber where the ancient communication system remains dangerously close to functioning despite the damage she has already caused. The machines around her flicker and produce faint sounds as if the old human technology is struggling to awaken after many years of silence, and she understands that if the soldiers regain control of the fortress they may eventually repair the system and unlock the knowledge hidden within it. Determined to prevent this outcome, she continues disabling more components even as the vibrations of the battle above shake the walls of the chamber. Above ground, the rebels finally reach the base of the central towers where the strongest defenders of the Empire stand ready for the final confrontation, and Noah realizes that the moment he has been preparing for since the destruction of his home is now approaching, because somewhere inside these towers waits the ruler whose ambition turned the legacy of Caesar into an empire built on fear and control. As the rebels reach the base of the central towers, the confrontation inside the fortress becomes even more intense because this area represents the heart of Proximus, Caesar's power, where the Empire's authority has been maintained for years through strict control and discipline. The soldiers guarding the towers stand in strong defensive positions, forming lines across the broken pathways and staircases that lead toward the command center, while the rebels gather their strength for what may be the final and most dangerous stage of the uprising. Noah stands among the fighters who have followed him through the chaos of the rebellion, and he can see the determination in their eyes because many of them were once prisoners forced to work inside the fortress, and now they refuse to return to the life of fear that the Empire created. The fires burning across the ruins continue, lighting the night sky, and the shadows of the broken human structures make the battlefield look even more dramatic as both sides prepare for another clash. The soldiers shout orders to each other, trying to hold their positions while the rebels move carefully through the debris, searching for ways to break through the defenses protecting the towers. The name of Caesar continues echoing among the rebels as a reminder that their fight is not only about survival but also about restoring the ideals of unity and freedom that once guided Ape Society before Proximus Caesar twisted that legacy for his own ambition. As the battle continues, whispers spread through the soldiers that their ruler is finally approaching the command center to confront the rebellion personally, because he believes that the strength of his presence will be enough to restore order and remind the rebels of the power that built the empire. This news spreads quickly among the rebels as well, and although some feel fear at the thought of facing the powerful ruler, others feel even more determined because they know that defeating Proximus Caesar is the only way to truly end the empire that has enslaved so many clans. Beneath the fortress, May continues her dangerous work inside the underground chamber where the ancient communication system remains partially active and the machines surrounding her occasionally spark with weak bursts of energy, showing how close the technology came to being fully restored by the Empire. She realizes that even if the rebellion succeeds, the knowledge hidden in these ruins will remain dangerous if it is ever used by someone seeking power instead of wisdom. Above ground, the rebels prepare for the final push toward the tower entrances where the command center waits, and Noah understands that the next moments may bring him face to face with the ruler who destroyed his home and reshaped the future of Ape Society. Standing among the rebels, he prepares himself for the confrontation that will decide whether the Empire continues ruling the land or whether a new chapter for the world will begin. As the rebels prepare for the final push toward the central towers, the atmosphere inside the fortress becomes filled with anticipation because everyone understands that the moment of direct confrontation with Proximus Caesar is drawing closer. The soldiers defending the command center tighten their formations around the entrances to the towers while shouting orders to each other in an attempt to hold the line against the advancing rebels. Broken pieces of the ancient human city lie scattered across the battlefield as reminders of a civilization that once dominated the world before its fall allowed apes to rise and shape the future of the planet. Noah stands at the front of the rebels looking toward the towering structures where the ruler of the empire waits, and he remembers the destruction of his village and the suffering of the prisoners who were forced to work inside this fortress. Those memories give him the determination to keep moving forward even though the soldiers defending the towers are stronger and better organized than the guards who were defeated earlier in the rebellion. The rebels gather together preparing to rush the entrances at the same moment so that the soldiers cannot focus their defense on a single point of attack. Many of the fighters around Noa come from different ape clans who once lived separate lives but are now united by the same goal of ending the rule of Proximus Caesar and restoring the ideals that the original Caesar believed in. The name of that great leader continues spreading through the rebels like a symbol of hope, reminding them that their struggle is about more than just survival because it represents the future direction of Ape Society. Beneath the fortress, May continues working inside the underground chamber where the ancient communication system remains unstable but still dangerous, and she knows that the machines hidden there were built by humans long ago to connect cities and share knowledge across vast distances. If Proximus Caesar gains access to that technology, he could expand his empire far beyond the fortress and use the knowledge of the old world to dominate every clan that stands against him. Determined to prevent this future, May continues disabling more parts of the system even as the sounds of battle grow louder above her. Back at the base of the towers, the rebels finally begin their coordinated assault, rushing forward together and forcing the soldiers to defend multiple entrances at once, which causes the once organized defense to break apart under the pressure of the attack. The clash between rebels and soldiers becomes even more intense as both sides struggle for control of the tower entrances, and in the middle of this chaos a new presence begins to appear near the command center as word spreads quickly that Proximus Caesar himself has finally come forward to confront the rebellion threatening to destroy the empire he built. As the rebels fight their way toward the entrances of the central towers, the tension inside the fortress reaches its highest point because the soldiers defending the empire know that the appearance of their ruler may decide the outcome of the battle. The clash between rebels and soldiers grows even more intense as both sides struggle across the broken pathways and staircases leading upward toward the command center where Proximus Caesar has begun to emerge. The towering structures of the old human city cast long shadows over the battlefield, and the fires burning across the ruins illuminate the moment when the powerful ruler finally steps forward surrounded by his most loyal guards. Many of the soldiers immediately raise their voices in loyalty while the rebels fall silent for a moment because they are finally seeing the leader who built the empire that enslaved so many ape clans. Proximus Caesar stands tall and confident, looking across the battlefield with an expression that shows both anger and determination because he believes the rebellion is nothing more than a challenge to the order he created. He begins speaking loudly so that both soldiers and rebels can hear him, declaring that the empire was built to protect the future of ape civilization and that only through strength and unity under his rule can apes avoid repeating the mistakes that destroyed human society. His words reveal how strongly he believes in his own vision because he sees himself as the rightful successor to the legacy of Caesar, even though his methods have turned that legacy into a system of domination. Many soldiers respond to his speech with renewed loyalty, but the rebels remain determined because they have seen the suffering caused by the empire and no longer believe that Proximus Caesar represents the ideals of the great leader whose name he uses. Noa steps forward among the rebels, realizing that the moment he has been preparing for since the destruction of his home has finally arrived because he now stands face to face with the ruler responsible for the empire that changed the world around them. Beneath the fortress, May continues working inside the underground chamber where the ancient communication system remains unstable, and she hears the distant echoes of Proximus Caesar's voice through the tunnels, reminding her how close the empire came to unlocking the power of human technology. She knows that if the rebellion fails, the ruler will return to the chamber and complete the work that his soldiers started, which could give him control over knowledge that might reshape the future of the planet. Above ground, the battlefield grows quiet for a brief moment as both sides watch the confrontation between Noa and Proximus Caesar begin, because everyone understands that the outcome of this encounter will decide whether the empire continues ruling the land or whether the rebellion succeeds in ending the power that has dominated Ape Society for so long. As the battlefield grows quiet for a brief moment, all eyes inside the fortress turn toward the confrontation between Noa and Proximus Caesar, because the fate of the rebellion and the future of the empire now depend on what happens between these two leaders. The towering structures of the ruined human city stand silently around them while fires continue burning in the distance, lighting the broken walls and pathways where soldiers and rebels wait for the outcome of the moment that could decide the entire conflict. Proximus Caesar steps forward confidently, looking at Noa with a mixture of curiosity and anger because he cannot believe that a young ape from a distant clan has managed to challenge the powerful empire he spent years building. He begins speaking again, declaring that the world belongs to those strong enough to control it and that his empire is the natural evolution of ape civilization because humans once ruled through technology and power, and now apes must do the same if they wish to survive in the future. His words reveal how deeply he believes that domination and control are necessary to protect Ape Society from the dangers that once destroyed humanity. However, Noa responds by reminding everyone listening that the original Caesar fought for something very different because he believed that apes should live with honor, freedom, and unity rather than becoming tyrants who repeat the same mistakes humans made long ago. The exchange of words between them spreads through the fortress as soldiers and rebels listen carefully, realizing that this confrontation represents more than just a personal conflict because it reflects two completely different visions for the future of ape civilization. Some soldiers begin to hesitate as they hear Noa speak about the true legacy of Caesar, while the rebels feel their determination growing stronger because they see in Noa the courage and leadership that the empire tried to destroy. Beneath the fortress, May continues disabling the ancient communication system while the distant voices of the confrontation echo through the tunnels, reminding her that the rebellion above is reaching its most important moment. She knows that if Noa fails, the Empire will regain control and eventually return to the chamber to restore the machines that could give Proximus Caesar even greater power. Above ground, the tension between the two leaders continues building as Proximus Caesar steps closer, challenging Noa to prove that his vision of freedom and unity is strong enough to defeat an empire built on power and ambition. The soldiers tighten their grip on their weapons while the rebels prepare themselves for whatever happens next because the moment of decision has arrived and the future of the world may soon be determined by the outcome of this confrontation inside the fortress. As the confrontation between Noa and Proximus Caesar continues, the tension inside the fortress becomes almost unbearable because both the soldiers of the Empire and the rebels who have risen against it understand that the moment unfolding before them will determine the future direction of ape civilization. The ruined towers of the ancient human city stand silently around the battlefield while the flames from earlier clashes continue flickering against the broken walls, casting long shadows over the two leaders who now represent two completely different visions of the world. Proximus Caesar begins speaking again with a powerful voice, declaring that the rebellion is nothing more than a challenge from those too weak to understand the realities of survival because he believes that only a strong empire can protect apes from the chaos that destroyed human civilization long ago. He argues that humans once ruled the world through technology and domination and that apes must now follow the same path if they want to ensure their species never falls into weakness or extinction. However, Noa refuses to accept that vision and responds by reminding everyone listening that the original Caesar did not fight to replace one tyrant with another but instead fought to give apes the chance to live freely without repeating the same mistakes that destroyed humanity. His words echo through the fortress and many rebels shout in agreement because they believe the Empire has already proven how dangerous it can be when power is used to control and enslave others rather than protect them. The soldiers loyal to Proximus Caesar remain determined to defend their ruler, but some begin to hesitate as the debate between the two leaders reveals how differently they understand the legacy of the great Caesar. Beneath the fortress, May continues working inside the underground chamber where the ancient communication system remains dangerously close to being functional, and she realizes that even if the rebellion succeeds, the technology hidden in these ruins could still influence the future of the world if it falls into the wrong hands. The machines around her occasionally spark with faint energy as if they are waiting to awaken again after years of silence, and she works carefully to ensure that the system cannot be easily restored. Above ground, the confrontation between Noa and Proximus Caesar reaches a breaking point as the ruler finally declares that words are meaningless without strength and challenges Noa to prove that his vision for Ape Society can survive against the power of the empire he created. The soldiers tighten their defensive lines while the rebels gather around Noa, prepared to fight for the freedom they have already risked so much to achieve, and the fortress that once symbolized the unstoppable authority of Proximus Caesar now stands on the edge of a decisive moment where the battle for the future of the planet is about to begin. As the confrontation between Noa and Proximus Caesar reaches its breaking point, the tension inside the fortress finally erupts into action because the ruler refuses to allow the rebellion to continue challenging the authority of the empire he built. The soldiers loyal to him tighten their formations around the central towers while the rebels gather beside Noa, ready to defend the freedom they have already fought so hard to reclaim. The ruined structures of the ancient human city stand as silent witnesses to the moment when the future of ape civilization may soon change forever. Proximus Caesar moves forward with confidence, believing that the strength of his empire and the loyalty of his soldiers will be enough to crush the rebellion before it spreads beyond the fortress walls. However, the rebels no longer see him as an unstoppable ruler because they have already broken the chains that once kept them imprisoned, and the courage they found during the uprising now pushes them to stand together against the power that once controlled them. Noa remains calm despite the danger surrounding him because he understands that the battle ahead is not only about defeating Proximus Caesar but about protecting the ideals that the original Caesar believed in when he first fought to give apes their freedom. The soldiers begin advancing slowly, attempting to surround the rebels while the fighters loyal to Noa prepare themselves to resist the final attack that may determine the outcome of the rebellion. Beneath the fortress, May continues her work in the underground chamber where the ancient communication system still shows faint signs of energy despite the damage she has already caused to many of its components. The machines around her hum quietly as if they are waiting to awaken again, and she realizes that the technology hidden beneath the ruins represents another kind of power that could shape the future of the planet long after the battle above has ended. Determined to ensure that the Empire can never use this system again, she continues disconnecting the final pieces of machinery even as the sounds of fighting begin echoing down through the tunnels. Above ground, the clash between rebels and soldiers begins once again as the two sides rush toward each other across the broken pathways surrounding the central towers, turning the fortress into the stage for the final struggle between the empire built by Proximus Caesar and the rebellion that has risen to challenge his rule. Standing at the center of the battlefield, Noa understands that whatever happens next will not only decide the fate of the fortress but may also determine whether the future of Ape Society follows the path of domination or the path of freedom that the great Caesar once dreamed of for his people. As the battle erupts again around the central towers, the fortress becomes the center of a fierce conflict where rebels and soldiers fight for control of the empire that once seemed impossible to challenge. The broken structures of the ancient human city echo with the sounds of struggle as both sides clash across stairways, platforms, and narrow paths between the ruins. Soldiers loyal to Proximus Caesar move forward with discipline, trying to force the rebels back, while the fighters who joined Noa refuse to retreat because they know that surrender would only return them to the chains they have already broken. The fires burning across parts of the fortress light the battlefield and reveal the determination on the faces of the rebels who now fight not only for their own freedom but also for the future of Ape Society that has been threatened by the ruler's ambition. Noa stands at the center of the resistance, guiding groups of fighters and encouraging them to remain united because he understands that their strength comes from cooperation rather than fear. Many rebels remember the stories of the great Caesar, and those memories give them courage as they face the soldiers who defend an empire built on domination. Proximus Caesar watches the battle unfolding around him with growing anger because he cannot accept the idea that prisoners and smaller clans could rise against the powerful system he created. He orders his soldiers to push forward and restore control over the fortress, believing that once the rebellion is crushed, his authority will remain unchallenged across the lands. Beneath the fortress, May finally succeeds in disabling the last major components of the ancient communication system hidden inside the underground chamber, and the machines that once flickered with weak energy fall silent at last. She knows that the technology may never function again, which means that the Empire will not gain the knowledge it sought from the ruins of the human world. However, she also understands that the battle above must still be won, because if the soldiers defeat the rebellion, the Empire will continue spreading its power across the planet even without the ancient machines. Above ground, the fighting grows even more intense as rebels and soldiers struggle for control of the tower entrances, while the confrontation between Noa and Proximus Caesar moves closer to becoming a direct clash between two leaders who now represent the opposing futures of ape civilization. The fortress that once symbolized the strength of the Empire now trembles under the weight of the rebellion, and everyone present can feel that the final outcome of the battle is approaching quickly. As the battle continues raging around the central towers, the fortress becomes a place where the future of ape civilization is being decided in real time, because the rebels refuse to give up the freedom they have already fought to reclaim, while the soldiers loyal to Proximus Caesar struggle desperately to restore control over the Empire's stronghold. Broken pieces of the ancient human city lie scattered across the battlefield, and the fires from earlier clashes continue illuminating the ruins as the two sides push against each other with determination and strength. Noa remains at the center of the resistance, guiding the rebels through the chaos and reminding them that their unity is the greatest weapon they possess, because the Empire was built on fear while their rebellion is built on the shared hope of a different future. Many fighters around him remember the suffering they endured as prisoners inside the fortress, and those memories now fuel their determination to make sure that the Empire can never enslave another clan again. Proximus Caesar watches the battle unfolding with increasing frustration, because he believed that the authority of his empire would be enough to crush any rebellion before it could grow strong enough to threaten him. He begins shouting orders to his soldiers, demanding that they push forward and force the rebels back from the central towers, because losing this stronghold would destroy the system of control he created across the region. However, the soldiers now face a resistance stronger than they expected, because the rebels have discovered courage through their unity and the belief that they are defending the true legacy of the great Caesar rather than the twisted version used by the Empire. Beneath the fortress, May finishes disabling the last functioning elements of the ancient communication system, and the chamber finally falls silent as the old machines lose the weak energy that once flickered across their surfaces. She understands that the technology hidden in the ruins will no longer give Proximus Caesar the advantage he hoped to gain, and this realization gives her hope that the rebellion above may still succeed in ending the Empire's power. Climbing back toward the surface, she hears the distant sounds of battle growing louder, which means the conflict between the rebels and the soldiers is reaching its final stage. Above ground, the fighting intensifies near the command center, where Noa and Proximus Caesar now move closer to facing each other directly as the soldiers and rebels struggle around them. The moment approaches when the two leaders must finally confront each other, and everyone inside the fortress understands that the outcome of that encounter will determine whether the Empire survives or whether a new future for Ape Society begins rising from the ruins of the old world. As the battle inside the fortress reaches its most intense stage, the conflict between the rebels and the soldiers becomes centered around the confrontation between Noa and Proximus Caesar, because both sides understand that the fate of the Empire now depends on the outcome of this final encounter. The ruins of the ancient human city surround them like silent witnesses to the struggle unfolding in the present, while fires from the earlier battles continue burning across broken walls and collapsed structures, illuminating the chaos of the battlefield. Noa steps forward with determination, knowing that he carries not only the hopes of his own clan but also the hopes of every ape who suffered under the rule of the Empire. Proximus Caesar stands tall before him, refusing to believe that a young rebel could challenge the power he spent years building through discipline, control, and ambition. He speaks once more, declaring that strength alone determines who deserves to rule, and that his empire was created to ensure that apes would never again become weak like the humans whose civilization collapsed under its own mistakes. However, Noa rejects that vision and reminds everyone listening that the original Caesar fought so that apes could live freely without becoming the same kind of tyrants who once dominated the world through fear and technology. The exchange of words between them reflects the deeper conflict shaping the future of Ape Society, because one leader believes that domination and control are necessary while the other believes that unity and respect are the true path forward. Around them the battle continues as rebels and soldiers struggle for control of the central towers, but many fighters begin focusing their attention on the confrontation between the two leaders because they understand that whoever wins this moment will shape the future direction of the world. Beneath the fortress, May finally leaves the underground chamber after ensuring that the ancient communication system can no longer be easily restored, and she moves back toward the surface determined to see how the battle above will end. The machines hidden beneath the ruins now remain silent symbols of a past civilization whose mistakes still cast shadows over the present conflict. Above ground, the confrontation between Noa and Proximus Caesar grows even more intense as the ruler moves forward, challenging the young rebel to prove that his vision for the future is strong enough to defeat the empire that once controlled the entire fortress. The moment has arrived when the rebellion and the empire must decide their fate through the actions of the two leaders standing at the center of the battlefield, surrounded by the ruins of a world that once belonged to humans but now waits to see what kind of future the apes will create. As the confrontation between Noa and Proximus Caesar continues in the middle of the battlefield, the entire fortress seems to pause for a moment because both the rebels and the soldiers understand that the outcome of this encounter will determine the future of the empire and the direction of ape civilization itself. The ruins of the ancient human city stand around them like reminders of a world that once collapsed under the weight of power and ambition, and the flames burning across the broken structures illuminate the faces of the fighters who now wait to see which vision of the future will prevail. Proximus Caesar moves forward with confidence, believing that the strength he used to build his empire will once again prove superior to the rebellion that rose against him. He argues that the world belongs to those who are strong enough to control it, and that the fall of human civilization proves that weakness and division only lead to destruction. However, Noa stands firm, refusing to accept that idea, and instead reminds everyone listening that the original Caesar believed in something greater than domination because he fought to give apes the chance to live freely without repeating the mistakes humans made when they ruled the planet through technology and control. Their words echo across the battlefield, and many rebels feel inspired by Noa's courage because they have already seen how the Empire turned clans into prisoners and twisted the legacy of their greatest leader into a system of fear. Around them the fighting continues as rebels and soldiers struggle for control of the central towers, but the focus of the battle has now shifted toward the two leaders who represent the opposing futures of Ape Society. Beneath the fortress, May finally reaches the upper levels after disabling the ancient communication system, and she sees the fires and chaos spreading across the ruins, realizing that the rebellion has grown into something far larger than a simple escape from captivity. The technology hidden beneath the fortress now lies silent, but the conflict above will decide whether the world moves toward freedom or remains trapped under the rule of an empire built on ambition. Standing among the rebels, Noa understands that the moment has come to prove that unity and courage can defeat domination and fear, because if the rebellion fails, the empire of Proximus Caesar will continue expanding across the land, shaping the future of the planet for generations. As the two leaders finally step closer toward the decisive clash, the soldiers and rebels around them prepare themselves for the final outcome of the battle that will determine the fate of the fortress and the future path of ape civilization. As the decisive moment finally arrives inside the fortress, the confrontation between Noa and Proximus Caesar turns from words into action, because both leaders understand that the future of ape civilization can no longer be decided through arguments alone. The battlefield around them remains filled with chaos as rebels and soldiers continue fighting among the broken structures of the ancient human city, but the attention of many fighters slowly shifts toward the center, where the two leaders now prepare for the final clash. Proximus Caesar moves forward with confidence, believing that the strength which allowed him to build his empire will easily overpower the young rebel who dared to challenge his authority. He sees himself as the rightful ruler of a new world where apes must dominate in order to survive, and he refuses to believe that unity and compassion could ever be stronger than power and control. However, Noa stands firm, knowing that the rebellion represents the hopes of every clan that suffered under the Empire's rule, and the memory of his destroyed village reminds him why he cannot allow the ruler's vision to shape the future of the planet. The two apes finally engage in a fierce struggle while the flames from the surrounding ruins light the battlefield and the echoes of combat continue spreading across the fortress. Soldiers loyal to Proximus Caesar attempt to push the rebels back, while many rebels fight even harder because they know that if Noa falls, the Empire will regain control and punish everyone who dared to rise against it. Beneath the fortress, May reaches the upper levels of the ruins and sees the battle unfolding around the central towers, realizing that the rebellion has reached the final stage where everything depends on the outcome of the confrontation between the two leaders. The ancient communication system hidden below the fortress now lies silent, but the shadow of the past still lingers because the ruins around them remind everyone how easily power can destroy a civilization when it is used without wisdom. Above ground, the clash between Noa and Proximus Caesar grows more intense as both leaders fight with determination, representing two completely different futures for Ape Society. The soldiers and rebels surrounding them begin to slow their own battles as they watch the confrontation, because they know that whoever emerges victorious from this fight will decide whether the Empire continues ruling through domination or whether the rebellion succeeds in creating a new beginning for the world. As the fierce struggle between Noa and Proximus Caesar continues, the battlefield around them becomes filled with tension because every rebel and every soldier watching the fight understands that the future of the Empire now depends on the outcome of this confrontation. The flames burning across the ruined fortress cast moving shadows across the broken structures of the ancient human city, while the sound of distant clashes slowly fades as many fighters pause to watch the decisive moment unfolding before them. Proximus Caesar fights with the confidence of a ruler who has spent years building his empire through strength and ambition, believing that his power alone proves he deserves to lead the future of ape civilization. However, Noa refuses to give in to that vision because he knows that the rebellion represents the hopes of countless apes who were forced to live under the Empire's control, and he remembers the stories of the great Caesar whose legacy was built on unity rather than domination. The clash between the two leaders grows even more intense as they struggle among the debris and ruins surrounding the central towers, while rebels and soldiers alike hold their breath, waiting to see which vision of the future will prevail. Beneath the fortress, May watches from the upper levels of the ruins after successfully disabling the ancient communication system, and she realizes that even though the technology of the old human world has been silenced, the choices made by the apes fighting above will now shape what kind of civilization replaces the fallen human era. The broken buildings and silent machines surrounding the battlefield stand as reminders of how easily a powerful society can collapse when power is used without wisdom or compassion. Above ground, the fight between Noa and Proximus Caesar reaches its final moments as both leaders push themselves to the limit, knowing that there can be only one outcome that will decide the future of the fortress and the empire that grew from it. The soldiers loyal to the ruler wait anxiously, hoping that their leader will prove his strength, while the rebels watch with determination, believing that the courage and unity that brought them this far will finally break the power of the Empire. As the flames continue flickering across the ruins and the wind moves through the broken towers of the ancient city, the decisive moment of the battle arrives, and the fate of the rebellion and the Empire now hangs on the final outcome of the struggle between the two leaders. As the final moments of the battle unfold inside the ruined fortress, the struggle between Noa and Proximus Caesar reaches its decisive conclusion, and every rebel and soldier watching the confrontation understands that the outcome will determine the fate of the empire that once seemed impossible to challenge. The flames burning across the broken structures of the ancient human city illuminate the scene as the two leaders push themselves to the limit, representing two completely different futures for ape civilization. Proximus Caesar fights with the fierce determination of a ruler who built his empire through ambition and control, believing that strength alone gives him the right to rule the world that now belongs to apes. However, Noa refuses to surrender because he carries the memory of his destroyed home and the suffering of the prisoners who were forced to live under the Empire's rule, and those memories remind him why the rebellion must succeed if Ape Society is to avoid repeating the same mistakes that once destroyed human civilization. The clash between the two leaders becomes the final turning point of the battle as rebels and soldiers watch the outcome with growing tension because they know that whichever vision survives this moment will shape the future of the planet. Beneath the fortress, the ancient communication system now lies silent after May successfully disabled the machines that once threatened to give the Empire access to the knowledge of the old human world. The dark tunnels below remain filled with broken technology and forgotten memories of a civilization that once ruled the Earth but ultimately collapsed under the weight of its own ambition. Above ground, the fight reaches its final seconds, and when the struggle finally ends, the empire that Proximus Caesar built begins to crumble because the rebellion has proven that unity and courage can overcome domination and fear. Many soldiers drop their weapons, realizing that the power they served has fallen, while the rebels stand together in the ruins of the fortress, knowing that their victory represents the beginning of a new chapter for Ape Society. Noa looks across the battlefield and understands that the future will now depend on whether the next generation of apes chooses to follow the path of unity and freedom that the great Caesar once believed in, or whether another ruler will rise to repeat the same mistakes that destroyed the old human world. The ruins surrounding the fortress remain as silent reminders of how power can shape and destroy civilizations, but the rebellion has shown that a different future is possible if the lessons of the past are remembered and respected. As the fires slowly fade and the dawn begins to appear on the horizon, the fortress that once symbolized the strength of an empire now stands as the place where a new beginning for the world has finally started to rise. After the fall of Proximus Caesar's empire, the fortress slowly begins to fall silent as the fires from the battle fade and the rebels who once fought for their freedom finally stand together in the ruins of the ancient human city, realizing that the long struggle has finally come to an end. The soldiers who once served the empire now look around at the broken structures and the defeated stronghold, understanding that the system of control they believed in has collapsed and that the world around them is beginning to change in ways none of them expected. Noa stands among the rebels and the freed prisoners, looking across the battlefield where only hours earlier the future of ape civilization hung in the balance, and he understands that victory does not simply mean the end of the empire but the beginning of a responsibility to shape a better future for the clans that suffered under its rule. Many of the apes who were once forced to work inside the fortress now gather together in relief because the chains that held them have finally been broken and the fear that once controlled their lives is slowly fading. May walks among the ruins as well, knowing that the ancient communication system hidden beneath the fortress will no longer threaten the balance between apes and the remnants of humanity, because the machines that once represented the power of the old world now lie silent beneath the rubble of history. The broken towers and collapsed buildings around them serve as powerful reminders of how easily civilizations can rise and fall when power is used without wisdom or compassion, and these ruins show what happens when ambition replaces unity. Noa remembers the stories of the great Caesar, whose vision was never about domination but about creating a world where apes could live with freedom, dignity and respect for one another, and he realizes that the rebellion has given the next generation of apes the chance to return to that path rather than following the dangerous example of Proximus Caesar. As the sun slowly rises over the horizon, the light spreads across the ruins of the fortress and the land surrounding it, symbolizing the beginning of a new chapter for the world where the future will depend on the choices made by those who survived the battle. Many rebels begin preparing to return to their clans and rebuild the communities that were destroyed by the Empire, while others remain behind to help free the last prisoners and secure the fortress so that it can never again become the center of another tyrant's power. Noah looks across the horizon, understanding that the struggle he faced inside the fortress was only the beginning of a much larger journey, because the world beyond the ruins is still full of unknown lands, scattered ape clans and surviving humans whose future may once again become connected to the fate of ape civilization. The legacy of Caesar now rests in the hands of a new generation, and the victory inside the fortress has shown that the world does not need to follow the path of domination and control that once destroyed human civilization, but can instead move toward a future built on unity, understanding and the hope that the mistakes of the past will not be repeated again.